So we are here today with a Flute Center of New York sponsored review. Thank you, Flute Center of New York, for sponsoring this video. Before we get into the unboxing and the review, we have, as usual, all our little perks and stuff that are for you that also help me out. You can use my code JAF to get free domestic shipping within the US. You get a 10-day trial instead of 7 days. You get an 18-month warranty on your new flute, and you get to take 3 instruments out on trial at a time. If you do use my code, thank you very much. It does help me out because I do earn a small commission for it. Just make sure that you are actually in the market to buy if you want to take these instruments out on trial. To do that, all you need to do is email or phone the Flute Center of New York, and they can take care of things for you from that point on. Just give them my code JAF and they'll know what to do. Before you try flutes, make sure you take off all dangly jewelry and rings that can potentially scratch the flute. So let me do that right now. I have thought of getting a silicone ring. If any of you have tried silicone rings, let me know how you feel, which brands you like. I've been shopping around. I'm gonna put this on the side here so I don't lose it. Rings are the biggest culprit in scratching flutes, so make sure you take them off. Don't use the polishing cloth, the cleaning rod, or the cleaning cloth that comes with each new flute because they are not yours yet. And last but not least, just a quick disclaimer. Every flutist plays each flute differently. Like in Harry Potter, just as the wand chooses the wizard, so the flute chooses the flutist. I am not the same as you. My mouth shape is not the same as yours. With these videos, I'm just describing to the best of my ability how they feel. None of these reviews are about whether flutes are good or bad. The Flute Center of New York takes care of that for me. They do all the vetting for me, so I don't have to do that part. I get to do the fun part of figuring out how each flute actually likes to be played. With that said and done, let's finally jump into today's review. Today we're going to be looking at, I believe, the Sonare 905, which I think is the newest one. As usual, they have a little thing that has their podcast. Oh, this is new. They have a new little card here that describes the ClubFCNY. I'm part of this club. That's why you can use my code JAF. So if you are a teacher, you can do the same thing as me, but just instead of making a video, you would be bringing flutes into your studio and then having your students try it out. If your students buy it, you will earn a commission. So Sonare by Powell, model 905. This is the Powell signature sterling silver head joint with Aurumite 9K lip plate and crown. Oh, I was not expecting that. I mean, I was expecting it would be a Powell head joint because typically, essentially Sonare is like the sub brand of Powell. They're a little bit cheaper. They are very, very good for like intermediate advanced players, but once you get into the professional range, that's when you're looking into like a full Powell flute, for example. Typically these flutes will come with a head joint from their parent company, so in this case you have a Powell head joint that is on a Sonare body. Sterling silver body with silver plated mechanism and 9-carat Aurumite barrel. Oh! French open hole model, pointed key arms, gold springs, Straubinger Phoenix pads, 0.016 tubing, which is a standard wall tubing. What I mean by that is that the actual wall of the flute can be thicker or thinner. 0.016 inches is your standard width of the wall. 0.018 is when you get into what's called heavy wall. Basically, it's just a thicker wall. There is also 0.014 tubing, which is a thin wall. Heavy walls tend to be more resistant. Thin walls tend to be very, very extremely responsive. Offset G, split E mechanism, B foot joint, hand finished by artisans at Powell Factory, Boston. That's interesting. So it appears that the Sonare bodies are made in a separate factory, but they are basically quality controlled and actually hand finished by Powell. About the head joint though, 0.016 tubing, 9-carat Aurumite lip plate and crown silver riser, handmade in the USA. Alone, the head joint is $1,770. Ah, cool! So if you get the 905, this head joint is included. But it is an additional $200 if you want to get it with any other Sonare flute model or with a Powell signature flute. I'm just going to say what's on my mind right now. It sounds like this is the Sonare version of the 9K Aurumite Powell. Let me look this up. So there is a Powell Conservatory flute in 9K Aurumite. There's also a Powell Custom 14K Aurumite. Ooh, there's something called a Ruby Aurumite. Oh my. Okay, Joanna, don't get distracted. Let's look at the conservatory version. So Aurumite is gold exterior fused to a silver interior. It's basically a double layered tube. So the Powell Conservatory flute that's in the 9K Aurumite, the base price of it is $11,830, whereas this one is 4,500. So you are looking at less than half the price, but you still get 9K Aurumite. By the way, great case. It's very thick. There's piping along the sides. Looks like we have a very thick shoulder strap in here. Like this whole thing is padded. Wow. I haven't experienced that before, because I think that's what the plush lining is supposed to do. It's supposed to provide some padding, but what they did in here instead was actually sew in padding. It's like squishy but firm at the same time, if that makes sense. I love it, Flute Center of New York. I see what you did. They put a little sticker in here. Do not open or use cloths until purchased. Thank you. Excellent job, Flute Center of New York. So you have microfiber polishing cloth, and then you have a cleaning gauze, and then we have what appears to be a black wooden cleaning rod. Very nice. Oh, okay. The barrel is the neck. This whole thing is silver, with silver plated mechanism. Okay, so the keys are silver plated, which typically means that it's silver plated over nickel. That is cheaper to manufacture. To be honest, I personally cannot tell a tonal difference or even like a mechanical difference of keys that are made with different metals. I'm sure that there are other people with even more sensitive ears than me that could probably pick up more differences, but to me, I can't hear a difference. It's how they put the mechanism together, like the resistance of the keys, how bouncy the keys are, if some keys are more floppy than others. That's what I can really feel, but that doesn't really have anything to do with the actual metal that the keys are made out of. Essentially, your Aurumite is showing up in the neck and in the lip plate. It's very obvious when you look at the flute itself. It's not going to be quite as punchy as like a all sterling silver flute. An all sterling silver flute tends to be very, very soloistic, projecting lots of power. Whenever you add a little bit of gold to your flute, it just kind of mellows that out a little bit. This is a perfect in-between of going from a sterling silver flute to something like the 9K Aurumite. You get a taste of what the Aurumite would be like, and if you want more of it, then you can upgrade to the full Aurumite flute. So first impressions is that the key work seems to be of like medium resistance. There isn't a lot of bounce to this. With the keys not being so bouncy, it will essentially smooth out your technique for you, so you don't have to time things as precisely. Otherwise, the keys are very light. I'm going to noodle around a little bit first, and then I will immediately go into harmonics. The noodling around is just for me to get a quick feel of how this flute likes to be played, and then the harmonics is when I will actually figure out how this flute behaves. I will be essentially morphing the shape of my mouth, like of the inside of my mouth, to fit what this flute wants, but it may not work on me naturally. So if you hear any airiness in how I play at first, that is probably why. It's because I'm still kind of morphing. So even without having to morph my mouth to this, it just speaks across the range with very little effort. It does not play very linearly at all. Like the path of the airstream inside of your mouth isn't just like a line. I do find that I need to hold some sort of egg shape inside of my mouth. I'm not sure exactly where yet. It seems to want to be in the middle of my mouth somewhere. We'll figure that out with the harmonics. I can definitely feel that this has a lot of silver content in it, which it does. But yeah, it's just been kind of mellowed out a little bit. Now let's try harmonics. Let's see what we make of this. harmonic is very, very resistant, but I can get it out with some effort. I was right and I was wrong. So what I was right about is that there is definitely a ball or an egg shape inside of my mouth that I have to hold, but where I'm holding it is incorrect. I thought I could feel it in the middle of my mouth when I was just noodling around, but clearly with doing harmonics, I am feeling that egg shape in the lower half of my mouth and in the front. I'm feeling the wider base of the egg is right behind and under my bottom lip. So I think what was happening was when I was playing stuff in the middle register, I could more feel the back end of the egg in the middle of my mouth. So I think that's why I thought I could feel the egg in the middle of my mouth, but that is not the case. It is in here, right in there. That egg is tilted downwards for lower notes, and as you go higher, it tilts upwards, but it doesn't move like this up in your mouth. It literally just rotates. I think this is why it's hard to get that eighth harmonic out, is because I'm tilting it like this and it's almost at like a 90-degree angle, but I still have to get the air to shoot out this way. Now I want to go back to noodling around, and I'm going to now apply this way of playing that I just described to you guys. Essentially what I'm doing is a form of embouchure change that I think works on this flute. Here you go. Noticing that I'm having trouble in the top half of the middle register, so I'm going to go back to playing the harmonics in that range, figure out how that feels, and then I'm going to apply it to the real notes again. Alright guys, interesting. I've personally noticed that almost every flute out there, when you do the harmonic series, you can feel a definite pattern of how things change, how you move your lips, the angle of your lips to angle the air properly. For example, on this flute, I can really feel that egg shape, you know, kind of rotating like this. However, on almost every flute that I've ever tried, there's always one harmonic that kind of breaks the pattern a little bit. On my own flute, on my Brannon, it's the sixth harmonic. On my flute, I feel like, you know, I'm kind of scooping the air like this for low notes, and then I scoop it higher and higher and higher, and then suddenly I have to kind of tilt the entire airstream up like this to get that high G to come out. I'm noticing the same thing, but on the fourth harmonic for this, which is the top end of the middle register. So you have this egg shape. Now you have your airstream still coming out like this over it, I feel. When you get to the fourth harmonic or the top end of the middle register, you will feel that your airstream suddenly has to go like this. So I'm just gonna test that again, make sure that that is actually the case. Yeah, see, like, you get that resonance instead of, like, it resisting you, which feels nice. Oh, that feels real nice. line here, this change, you will need to do some tone work to smooth that out a little bit. You probably only need like a day or two to do that. It's not a really big deal. G-sharp 5 is around where it starts, so I would do a lot of tone work between G5 and G-sharp 5 just to smooth that out. And once you've smoothed that out, honey, you are good to go. Let's do some dynamics. Let's see how this thing fares. Oh, right, I have to tilt that airstream. Okay, easy peasy. The louder you want to play, expand that egg as far as it'll go. Like, you will feel like you are going full bullfrog, just. But if you want it to be really soft, you just make that egg really tiny. I do find that in both low notes and high notes, as I tried, when you play piano, you need to make sure that your top lip has a lot of good structure. So don't let your top lip be too like floofy. It needs to be quite firm on the inside rim of your top lip. So you do kind of feel like when you're playing piano on this flute, you feel like you're kind of going. I find that that just cleans up the sound really well. Let's try out tone color. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to push the extremes of tone color. I am trying to get as rich a color as possible. I want it to sound rich, chocolatey, beefy, luxurious, and powerful. And then I want to go into the extreme. And the extreme is sort of this eerie, otherworldly hum that doesn't have a lot of body to it. Like, it's really thin. If you do it right, it's very creepy and it is awesome. I'm gonna try first to go as beefy as possible. Yeah, that's pretty beefy. I'm gonna try higher notes as well. Suspicions, but I'm going to test it out with that thin, eerie sound. Here we go. Creepy, Creepy. That confirmed it for me. For tone color, what you are messing with is the airstream itself. So I mentioned before, right, that there's two parts to playing this particular flute. There's that rotating egg tucked behind your chin, but then there's also that stream of air that's kind of coming over it. The wider you make that stream of air, I made mine so wide that I actually had to widen the opening between my lips. Make that stream as wide as possible and you'll get this like really beefy sound. If you make that stream of air really tiny, almost like you're blowing through a coffee straw, that's when you'll get that really eerie thin sound. I love it. Let's head on over to articulation. I'm gonna use F major scale. I'm going to single tongue and then I'm going to double tongue. Because that egg is so far forward, typically that means that your tongue will also be quite far forward as well. I'm going to guess that the tongue will sound the best somewhere around the teeth, if not between your top teeth and your bottom teeth. Is it light? Is it crisp? Can I make it go fast? If I can do those three, then we are golden. If it sounds thumpy, it usually means it's too far back. If it's not crisp enough, it might even be too far forward. Here we go. My suspicion is correct. Where your tongue is attacking is actually the space between your top front teeth and your bottom front teeth. So you're just constantly going like that over that egg. Let's try double tonguing. Like single tonguing, when you do the first part of the double tonguing, the T part, that is between your top front teeth and your bottom front teeth. When you do the K, you kind of come up to sort of the middle of the roof of the mouth. It seems to be pretty generous in terms of where exactly you hit it. There's no one specific spot on the roof of your mouth that you have to hit. Because a lot of the resonance is down here, it's a lot more forgiving up here for your double tonguing. This is great for very serious intermediate to advanced players. It does allow you to learn double tonguing, but it doesn't have to be as precise as some other flutes out there. However, you still have to keep that second part of your double tonguing, the K part, very light. If you make it too explosive, it can kind of get caught, I find, and cause a little thumping sound. Let me try that again. Yeah, exactly. So we're going into the last section here, which is the mechanism. And I did mention in just sort of my first impressions when I picked it up how it felt. The more I play it, the more I'm like, wow, this is perfect for intermediate to advanced students. So I'm going to do the same scale, F major, but then I'm also going to do it in thirds just to kind of check to see how it feels to skip between notes. I'm a little bit uncomfortable playing this because I'm not putting my thumb port and my finger port on this, but as you can hear, it still sounds very even. Let's try some thirds. That's great. I'm gonna try out the trill keys now. Very interesting. They're both still medium resistance, but they have more bounce. Your trills do need to be very vibrant, and having bouncy keys will give you a more vibrant trill. So if I were to trill a regular key, I have to work harder to trill the regular keys than the C trill keys. Because they are smaller, like really tiny keys, it does kind of make sense that it does the work for you. That seems intentional. Let's try out B flat lever. Wow, this is very interesting. So this has the same level of medium resistance as the other keys, but not as much bounce. And this is because the B flat lever is typically almost never used as a trill key. It's used as an alternate for B flat. Because it is not a trill, it seems like they have not made it as bouncy. That also seems intentional to me. That's really cool. Let's try the gizmo. So it definitely helps tune your high C, and also it is not floppy. There's a nice medium resistance to it. It matches the same level of resistance as the B flat lever. I love how intentional everything feels. I hope you guys enjoyed my review. Thank you, Flute Center of New York, for sending this to me. This was such a beautiful flute to play around with. Make sure you follow the Flute Center of New York on their social media. I will leave all the links down below. I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye. Oh, I'm gonna need scissors for this. Ugh. Thing about filming on a bed is you can't get on and off gracefully.